Grand Marshal Zevnar of the Orion Collective stood on the command deck of the Imperator-class dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, watching as his invasion fleet entered Earth's solar system. 60 warships, carrying over 20,000 of the Collective's finest soldiers, a Legion-class invasion force, typically reserved for militarily advanced civilizations. "Tactical assessment," he commanded, his 7-foot frame towering over the bridge officers. "Primitive Marshal," replied Commander Ixlaw, bringing up holographic displays of Earth's defenses. "Their orbital capabilities are minimal. No energy shields. Projectile-based weaponry. No unified planetary government. As predicted, they are attempting to organize resistance, but their communication systems are easily monitored." Zevnar's facial ridges contracted in what passed for a smile among his species. "Hardly worth a legion. Perhaps, Marshal," Ixlaw cautiously noted, but Central Intelligence was insistent. "Apparently, humans have a concerning reputation among frontier worlds." Zevnar dismissed this with a gesture. "Frontier superstition. The data is clear. They're centuries behind us technologically. We'll establish a forward base in their northern hemisphere and expand from there." Standard subjugation protocols. On the displays, Earth rotated slowly, blissfully unaware that its status as a free world would soon end. The Collective needed the planet's resources and strategic position, and the indigenous population would serve adequately as labor. It was a scenario that had played out on 1,000 worlds before. In the small town of Pine Ridge, Montana, Colonel James "Pappy" Harrison, retired, sat on his porch, cleaning his beloved Remington 870 shotgun. At 68, the lines on his weathered face told stories of conflicts across 4 continents during his 30 years with the United States Marine Corps. After retiring, he'd sought solitude in the mountains, where the air was clean and people were scarce. His hands, still steady despite the decades of combat, worked mechanically as he listened to the radio. The news had been bizarre, lately reports of unidentified objects in orbit, communications, disruptions, emergency sessions at the UN. The sound of tires on gravel drew his attention as a black SUV approached his cabin. Few people came up this road, and fewer still knew where to find him. 2 figures emerged from the vehicle, a woman in a dark suit he recognized as General Morris, his former commanding officer, and a nervous-looking young man clutching a tablet. "Been a long time, Sarah," Harrison called, not bothering to rise. "Must be something special to bring you all the way out here." General Morris climbed the steps, her expression grave. "It's the end of the world, puppy. Or it could be." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Seems like the world's still spinning to me." "We're being invaded," she said flatly. "And not by anyone from around here." For the next 20 minutes, Morris outlined the situation. Massive ships in orbit, communications with the International Space Station abruptly terminated, and finally, an ultimatum delivered to every major government: simultaneously surrender or face annihilation. "Military options?" Harrison asked, his mind already shifting to the tactical. "Limited," Morris admitted. "They've neutralized our satellite capabilities. Air forces globally are reporting failure of advanced electronics when approaching their ships. They've landed a force outside of Kalispell, about 60 miles from here, establishing what appears to be a forward operating base." Harrison nodded slowly. "And you're here because—" "Because conventional response is failing," she replied. "We're putting together unconventional teams. People who know how to fight when everything goes to hell. I'm 68 years old, Sarah, and still the best combat tactician I've ever known," she countered. "We're not asking you to storm their ships. We need you to assess their ground forces, find weaknesses. They're advanced, but they're not familiar with Earth, with our terrain, with how humans fight when backed into a corner." Harrison looked down at the shotgun in his hands. So the Galactic Empire sent a legion to conquer Earth, and we're sending a retired Marine with a shotgun. Morris didn't smile. Something like that. 3 days later, Harrison crouched in the undergrowth on a ridgeline overlooking the alien forward base. It was impressive, a perfect hexagon of gleaming structures, energy barriers, and landing pads where sleek shuttles arrived and departed. Through his binoculars, he studied their patrol patterns, noting the clockwork precision of their movements. Too precise, too predictable. A lifetime of fighting guerrilla forces had taught Harrison that perfect patterns created perfect vulnerabilities. The aliens themselves were bipedal, taller than humans, with an almost reptilian appearance. Their armor appeared advanced, likely resistant to conventional firearms, but their formation discipline suggested they weren't expecting serious resistance. Harrison keyed his rudimentary radio, connecting to the makeshift resistance headquarters 20 miles back. Hammerhead to base. I count approximately 200 tangos with standard patrol rotation. Heavy weapons emplaced at cardinal points. No adaptive security measures visible. These boys have never fought an asymmetric war. Assessment? Came Morris's voice through the static. They're ripe for a lesson in how we do things down here, Harrison replied. Get me those locals you mentioned. Hunters, mainly. Anyone who knows these woods. And I need basic chemical supplies, fertilizer, diesel, household stuff. You're thinking EEDs? Morris asked. I'm thinking these fancy boys have never had to check under every rock and tree for something that goes boom, Harrison said. Time to introduce them to some backwoods hospitality. Grand Marshal Zevnar reviewed the casualty reports with growing incredulity. 3 days into what should have been a routine operation, his forward base had suffered 28 casualties. No enemy forces had been directly engaged instead. Primitive explosive devices had been hidden along patrol routes. Command vehicles had been disabled by projectiles fired from untraceable positions, and supply lines were constantly harassed. How is this possible? He demanded. These are primitives. Commander Ixlaw's facial ridges were pale with stress. Marshal Central Intelligence warned us. These humans, they don't fight like civilized species. They don't mass forces for conventional engagement. They're striking from hiding, using the terrain, using primitive but effective asymmetric tactics. They're savages. Zevnar snarled. Bring down orbital strikes on all surrounding forests. Eliminate any possible hiding places. We've tried, sir, Ixlaw replied. They've dispersed so widely that effective targeting is impossible without destroying the very resources we came to secure. A subordinate officer approached cautiously. Marshal, we've intercepted what appears to be enemy communications. Our linguistics division has partially translated it. The message played through the command room's audio system. Remember, folks, we're not trying to win all at once. Bleed 'em. Make 'em jumpy. Make 'em hate this place. Marines have been teaching this lesson since Tripoli doesn't matter how big you are if you're fighting ghosts. Zevnar's expression darkened. Find the source of that transmission. Find this. Marine. As darkness fell over the Montana wilderness, Harrison led a group of 12 locals, a mix of veterans, hunters, and random citizens who'd refused to evacuate through the forest toward the alien base. Each carried homemade explosives, hunting rifles adapted with scavenged military sites, and the fierce determination of people defending their home. Remember, Harrison whispered, we're not here to win a battle. We're here to teach them that every inch of this planet will cost them blood. One of the hunters, a woman in her 50s named Eleanor, who'd spent 30 years tracking elk through these mountains, pointed toward a rocky outcropping. Their patrol will pass there in approximately 6 minutes. They've maintained the same route despite our earlier surprises. Harrison nodded approvingly. Overconfidence. The downfall of every empire in history. He turned to the group. Set the charges at points B, D, and E. When they detonate, their quick reaction force will take routes we've already mapped. Jackson, Davidson, you know where to position the shooters." As the team dispersed into the darkness, Harrison checked his shotgun one last time. Nothing fancy, no lasers, no energy shields, just American steel and lead that had served him through 3 wars on Earth. It would serve him adequately in humanity's first extraterrestrial conflict. 1 week later, Grand Marshal Zevnar faced the unthinkable, ordering the withdrawal of his forward base, after sustaining over 100 casualties without ever engaging the enemy in direct combat. The primitive humans had turned the surrounding wilderness into a killing ground where his technologically superior forces found themselves constantly vulnerable. "Marshal," Ixlaw reported, "Central Intelligence has identified the leader of the resistance in this sector, a retired military commander named Harrison. His tactics are being adopted across the planet. Our casualty rates are unsustainable."